Hey, I was thinking. So I wanted to come on here and share my thoughts with you. Last week, I went to see my godson play football. He's in the seventh grade and he plays for Solon Middle School. And they were playing Erdonia Middle School. When I arrived to the school to see the game, Solon had just arrived to the other team's stadium. So we had to wait a while. So I was sitting on the bench with some friends of the parents of my godson. I know them, and so I can call them friends too. But the wife said to me that she loves or enjoys watching my hey videos. And so I thanked her for watching, and she said, "You should do one." And I was like, "I don't know what to talk about." Because normally I just think of something that comes on that day or something that inspires me to do the videos. And she said you should talk about the sacrifices that parents have to make, especially when their kids are involved with so many different sports, right? Or just involved in so many different things, I guess I should say. And I say, yeah, because it is some sacrifices. Because it was a Tuesday evening, the game didn't start until 5:30, which meant it didn't end till 7. So parents have to rush home or rush to the game from work and then get there, wait for the kid to come back to the school, pick them up, and then go home and try to eat and get them ready for bed for the next day. And it's a lot, right? Especially if you have kids who are active. And I've seen my friends do this. I've seen them with my godchildren who played volleyball, those who ran track, who did soccer, lacrosse, all the sports, and some who did different sports within the family, right? So I've seen my friends make that sacrifice. And as an aunt, I get to go when I want to go. So I just, I appreciate the fact that I have these kids that I can help inspire and educate and empower and influence. But I'm grateful that I don't feel the obligation to go to everything, not like the parents have to. And I just, I admire the fact that parents can do this. I think there's so many skills that parents learn just by having children, right? Organizational, time management, everything. But I also think about the fact that there are some kids who aren't being parented. Ironically, yesterday, I went again to see my godson play. This time they were playing at Solon Middle School. And on my way home, I had stopped at the store and I was scrolling. I don't know if I was at the game. I think I was at the game and I was scrolling, actually. I wasn't on my way home. I was scrolling when I was at the game. And I saw where Euclid High School had received notification from Solon High School that they were going to forfeit the game at Euclid, their football game on Friday night. And I didn't, excuse me, excuse me, I've had this cough for the past few days. My sinuses started acting up on Friday evening, and I just can't get rid of this cough. It's not all the time, it's just some of the time, but I just want it to be gone. But nonetheless, and I did take a COVID test. In case you're wondering, I took a couple, so I'm good on that end. But when I saw that Solon had forfeited the game because they chose not to travel to Euclid High School, I didn't even read the article because I kind of assumed why they didn't show up. Solon is a school district where the homes can go from the hundreds to the multi-millions. So when you're dealing with students who it's kind of like Shaker Heights. They have a broad range of people who live there, but most people in Solon have money because it costs a lot to live there. Their taxes are high, and they have a great school system. But I was disturbed because I started thinking to myself, like, when did we get here? And how do we get back? I mean, I have these conversations with friends all the time. Like, what do we do to help our youth? Because right now, they are just doing whatever they want to do, and no one is safe. I love to think about how people say it's an inner city problem when kids are killing each other in the inner city. But what happened when those kids move out of the inner city and move into the suburbs? Or what happens when they just come to the suburbs? Then it becomes all of our problems. I remember when my girlfriend's son was murdered a few months ago. She did an interview a few days after he was killed. And she was telling him, even though he was a good kid, was on a scholarship to play basketball for Cleveland State, he was a rising junior. He still was affected because the kids around him, whether they were in the city, which is where he lived, or the suburbs, which is where he sometimes went to play ball and hang out, etc. He said that kids everywhere have guns. Our kids are out here acting a fool. And I don't know what we do to change that. But we have to do something, because the way it is right now, it's not working. And even if you don't live in the city or a suburb that's close to the city, it doesn't mean that you won't be affected, because you can be. I was looking at a video yesterday, and it was at Fisk University, and all over the school they had "we" over "me." So we, then a line, and then me underneath. And I realized that a lot of times we just think about me, and don't think about the we. There's the African word Ubuntu that says, I am because we are. It talks about the interdependence of each of us with one another. We are all interdependent on one another. And so what affects one will eventually affect all. And I think that that's where a lot of our problems lie, because we do not recognize it's not just about me. I can't just leave the city, the people who may act a certain way, and think I'm not going to be affected some other way, because you will. Now, mind you, it's the mentality of some people. Sometimes when people get out of the inner city and get to another place, that mentality doesn't change. And so therefore they're bringing that with them. And then it leads to just ghetto-ness, right? I remember my neighbor, I live in a very nice community. I mean, people here who are judges, lawyers, and I mean, held high positions in the city and the state, and still do, some of them. But I had someone move over, and they just happened to be my neighbor. And when they moved here, they couldn't have been here but a week or two, and the daughter was throwing chicken bones in the street. Fortunately, a conversation was had, and we hadn't had to deal with that since. But it kind of just lets you know what you're dealing with when you have someone who does not care about community, right? So we had to, fortunately, I live in a condominium association, and so we're able to deal with that kind of stuff. And I mean, sometimes it's just ignorance, because they don't know any better. So therefore, somebody has to tell them, like, this is not what you do. But sometimes people don't listen, and they take that with them, and all mess just happens. And so I'm sharing this because, again, I was disturbed to see that Euclid, which is a suburb, will not be hosting Solon High School. But I understand. I ain't trying to be around foolishness. I have little kids in my life that are playing football that I would love to see. But every time they show up somewhere in the inner city, I'm just like, I don't even want to be bothered. One particular one had a whole game, and they started shooting at the game. I don't want to be involved in that. It is sad to see, However, there is something we have to do. And don't think because you don't live in a city that you don't need to do anything, because you do. However, you can influence, mentor, advise. Like I admire those who take the time to try to help our kids because we need help. We need help. I think about everything that's in place to keep us from being able to be productive citizens in this world, and we just go along right with it. And therefore, we're not being productive citizens. We're bringing chaos. We are bringing fear and violence to where people live. We have to do better, and we have to recognize that this is not just a problem of those who live in the inner city, because as you see, it is trickling out to other places too. But even if you live far away and think that it's not going to affect you, watch the news and you will see that it does. Because people who are getting carjacked aren't necessarily from the surrounding suburbs. They're the ones that's 2 and 3, 4 out. It affects all of us. So we have to figure out a way to do better. We know that parenting is an issue because some of these kids just haven't been parented. We know some of the parents are just the issue because they are just out of control. But we have to do something. There has to be some kind of structure in place, because I can tell you that it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable watching this. It's not comfortable living around it. I think I did a video a couple of weeks ago where some kids threw rocks at my car. And I had to get out and talk to them and just, let them know, like, this is not how you do. Because you don't know who I am. You don't know if I have a gun. You don't know what I'm doing. You don't know what kind of mood I'm in. Because if I'm angry and then you do something like this, it just takes me over and I just happen to have a gun, it's no telling what can happen. So we need to figure out a way to do better. And so I guess for those who are better and know better, like, let's have a come to Jesus moment and try to figure out what we can do to help. I keep saying things that we need to do because I got a whole workshop on menopause I still have to do because I've been talking about that. Still have to do I Need a Man workshop because still need a man. But this is serious. Not that the other ones aren't important too, but this is serious. Like, there has to be something that we do. It's just a shame. All right, that's all I have. Bye-bye.